Good evening all and welcome to Pete Wolf's Wilt. Tonight's games are going to consist of PLO and Omaha Hilo. At the minute we have two tables up and running. On my left hand side over here we have the $82 no limit Hilo with a 10,000 guaranteed. As you'll see from the lobby, we are approximately 1 hour into the tournament. It's a fairly slow game. And we'll just play this first hand. 8-5 double three with three spades is about as bad as it can get, but as we're in the big blind and we've got a free look, we'll have a look. Well, you can construe that flop in one of two ways. Obviously we've hit second set, but we are vulnerable to the 4-5. That said, we do have a 5 blocker, so there are only 3 remaining 5s in the pack. I was tempted to lead out and try and represent the 4-5, knowing that I have second set, and I think I'll probably have to do this. Okay, that makes it quite interesting that he's now followed up. It's plausible he could check with 4-5. You wouldn't necessarily want to lead out with that when you're first to bet, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I've got nothing to really gain out of this pot now, so I'm just going to let that one go and watch this hand develop. And again, here we are now in the small blind, worst possible place to be playing the hand from, but we do have ace 2 3 10 with one suit, although it's only to a 3 high flush draw. As you can see, there's been an early raise by December, so I think in this instance, again, it's still fairly cheap to have a look. I don't want to be raising here because I haven't really got any equity on the high hand at the minute other than ace 10 off suited, so we'll have a quick call, see what happens with the flop. There, as you can see, that's a reasonable flop. We've hit top pair, although we don't have a second pair to go with it. We also have the 2 and the 3 playing with the ace and the 6 on the board, so we have the nut low draw. We don't have any low hand made yet, and one of my pet hates here is to actually lead out with a nut low draw, because if you get re-raised, you've inflated the pot to too high at this early stage in the tournament. So a bet of 180. We're sitting there with top pair. We're going to call this, see if we can hit the 4 5 7 8 for the low hand. On the right hand side, we're sitting here with 2 3 4 8 double suited in the big blind, and we've had a raise from the button, so we will again call that down because there's some reasonable equity there to have a look at the flop. Right, on the left hand board we have now missed the low draw with the turn. It's left a straight draw on, or straight on the board with a jack 10. Again, we're drawing to the nut low. Our 10 also gives us a jack on the board for the draw to the nut high. Our opponent's checked it to us, which gives me now a reason to believe that certainly our low hand is, well, we have a nut low hand with a 2 3 ace 6 8. We're just going to put a bet in here of about half the pot, because I think my opponent may have 2 3 also on the basis that he checked the turn. Okay, so we have some decisions to make here on the left hand and the right hand side. The right hand side's easy, 7-9 queen. We've got no part of the high draw, so we'll let that hand go. Right, on the left hand side, I'm going to call this and hope my opponent doesn't have 2 3 and 2 pair. Excellent. Okay, we'll go back to the hand on the left hand table, because as you can see, that's already added 50% to my initial starting stack, but it was a hand that I wasn't overly comfortable in terms of where we were in the hand. You may recall, as my opponent shoved after my bet on the river, that I said he's probably got 2 3 on the basis that he checked the turn. That has been confirmed now. He did have the 2 3 nut low draw, the same as our 2 3 nut low draw. The big question I had really to answer myself then on the river was whether my opponent was likely to have 3/4 of the pot or not, or more to the point, how likely he was to have 3/4 of the pot. If I was certain he had a hand that was going to be winning 3/4 of that pot, I could have made a fold then, and that would have been the right thing to do with regards to the way the chips get allocated on a 3/4 pot. So looking at the hand back, we both had the 2-3 draw into the nut low. The river 8 gave us the nut low, the 5 cards required to make the nut low of 8 or below. So we were both sat there with the nut low, and my concern was with then the high draw. It was reasonable to put my opponent on an ace. He could have had a jack kicker, he could have had a 6, an 8, or a king, or a queen, which would have made him 2 pairs. So really the big question was, I'm talking rubbish now, but yeah, the question I had to answer was, did I think I was likely to be getting 1/4 of the pot? And if I was certain I was, I should have folded there. I wasn't certain. I knew I had the nut low. I knew I had a portion of the pot. It was just a question of whether my high hand would be sufficient. And as it turns out, the 10 kicker was sufficient to win down the high part of the pot. So in essence, we've had a great start because we've gained 50% to our stack. But it was a hand that I wasn't overly comfortable putting all of my chips in the pot, because there was a reasonable potential for me to come back with just the 2,500 chips that my opponent ended up. A little raise. It's not a hand that I'm overly keen to be seeing a flop with. I've got the ace-3 suited. I've got a pair of 6s. So although I do have some equity on the flop, I haven't got a low draw, and this was the reason I sometimes don't raise with these kind of hands in early position. My opponent's now shoved me all in. He's either got ace-2 or significantly more likely that he has ace-ace. In this instance, I've got no real reason to be calling off 90% of my stack. So I'm just going to let that hand go and try and convince myself that my opponent had ace-ace. Okay, in the progressive knockout, we are in the big blind with ace-ace 5-6. Unfortunately, neither of my aces are suited, but I do have 2 more low cards, unlike the previous ace, which had a previous pair of aces which had a 9 in it. At least I do have some backup for a low should I hit a 5 or a 6. This time the small blinds decided not to make a move. Sorry, the buttons decided not to make a move. Oh, how'd you like them apples? Get a walk with ace-ace in the big blind. On the right hand side we have ace-2-3-3 with a suited ace. This is more my kind of hand because we have a pocket pair, we have a nut suited draw. And we have a shove from an opponent. Okay. Well, it's one of those hands. If you want to gamble, then it's a nice gambling hand. But at this stage, it's not a hand I want to put all of my chips in the middle with. So, as strong a starting hand as this is, and as much as some people will not like the thought of folding this hand, I'm going to let it go. Right, on the left-hand table under the gun we have ace-4, queen-10. It's a reasonable starting hand, one I would normally play, but because I'm under the gun and because this is no limit, I'm just going to let the hand go. As you may have seen in the break, we've joined a further table. We're now playing the Hilo game on Party Poker. It's a $55 2000 guaranteed tournament. Normally only attracts 25 to 30 runners, and it's a very slow game in terms of its structure, which suits my style of poker perfectly. As if you don't know already, as you will see throughout this video, I'm an extremely tight poker player. And that's certainly represented in the game of Omaha and Omaha Hilo. So as I was saying, we've just added this third table. If we have a look at the lobby, you can see it's 15-minute levels, and the blind jumps are extremely small over the first couple of hours. There we are, look, 2 hours of play and the blinds will be 61-20 with a 5k starting stack. So this is a game that will suit my my style very much. The game here on the right, the no limit progressive game, is probably the least attractive game to my playing style. And I've picked up ace 3 king king. This is a hand that I'm definitely going to be playing. I've got pocket kings. I've also got the ace 3 and a suited king. So I shall put a raise in, and this time if somebody comes back over me, I will be putting my stack in and probably running into aces. Right, in the party poker game, ace 5 6 queen, nothing to consider playing there in a slow game. And in the weekly game, I've got 7 9 queen jack in the big blind, and unless this gets round to me unraised, I will be it'll be a hand I'm not playing. That said, it does have some potential on a very high flop. So let's hope that Gaffel doesn't put in a raise and we get to see a flop for free. Right, ace 3 4 6 in the bottom left. Again, not a hand I want to be raising with, even though I have a nut flush draw. So I'll just check that. Again, as spoken about earlier, I'll check the big blind and over to the hand I'm interested in. I need to now be quite aggressive with this hand in case my opponent has diamonds or 2 pair. I have the second nut low draw. I also have an overpair to the board, but obviously there's all guys that can be out there. So the hand top left, we've hit top 2 pair and an up and down draw from the bottom end. Okay, we're just going to start gambling on the right hand side now, the no limit. Perfect. Right, over to bottom left, party poker, we have an up and down straight draw. With backup, we'll call that without any problem. Again, back to this hand. 10 jack queen, top 2 pair, up and down straight draw from the bottom end. I could peel this, but I think I'm just going to let it go. Ace 2 suited, that's worth a raise. Now we're starting to get a bit more aggressive. We're now out of position to the call, so we'll slow down significantly unless we hit the flop. Okay, we've still got an up and down draw here. It's 250 bet. I'm prepared to have a look at that. Okay, top right, there's a bounty at stake now for 1,021 chips. I could shove all in to try and isolate the bounty, but he has a big enough stack to have me worried, so we'll just flat call this. Down here we've managed to miss absolutely everything, so this is now going to be a check fold, and part of the reason I didn't want to raise earlier in the hand. Top left, this is just a simple pass to a raise out of position. Right, back to the ace 2. We have hit third pair and we have the nut low draw. Hopefully Reza will want to check this down, but it's quite unlikely. You know, he's going to be betting a low or a king or aces or 2 pair here, so we'll see. Let's make it look quick. See if we can get another check through. We have. Okay, so not really hit anything here. We've missed our nut low, which was the part of the pot we wanted. We've picked up first, second, third and fifth pair on a flushed and straight board, so there'll be no more chips going in here. This ace, jack, jack, queen's just a pass. So let's see what happens top right. If he bets, then he has to have a hand that beats me and I have to fold. If he doesn't, then it's still unlikely, but possible, that we win the hand. Right, we'll come back to that one in a moment. Let's just flick around a bit. Bottom left, that's going to be an instant fold in a small blind, 4, 6, 7 queen. Top left, there's been a single raise. We have a suited ace 3, 4, 9. We have position, so we have chips. So we're just going to peel a flop here and see if we can improve. top right's a pass in the small blind with 3-4-5 queen. Top left we've hit the nut low draw. We're going to get to see the turn card for free. Bottom left we have ace 3 king queen in an unraised put on the button, so we're going to pop that one up a bit. Okay, back here we're going to take the free turn card and hopefully make our low. We have made our low, but in doing so we actually hit the card that we wanted, the 3, but we had the backup to the nut low, so we now have a position where both of our opponents look a bit scared to bet. So we're going to put in a chunky raise on the one thing I don't like doing, which is betting the low, but we do have one pair as our backup for the high, and we also have the facility to push on the river should our opponent call this off. Right, so we had a nice hand on the super progressive a few moments ago. Let me just see if I can pull that one back up, and we'll talk our way through that. Yep, this was the hand. As you can see, we'd raised pre with kings and got called. There was some action on the turn when I led out and got re-raised. As you can see, our opponent had only a low draw with a up and down straight draw with a 5-7 to the 4-6. They had the ace blocker on the diamonds, so they knew that we couldn't have the nut flush draw, which of course was correct. But what we did have was the best hand at the time, and the 2 on the river was actually a great card because although it made the lows count, it counteracted his ace 2, which meant his low hand now became ace 2 4 5 7, where the 2 gave us the nut low. The 2 gave us the nut low, counteracting his ace 2, giving us the low hand as well as the high hand where our pocket kings were winning. Of course, had that 2 have been a 3, our opponent would have made 3 4 5 6 7 and had the ace 2 low draw, and they would have won the whole pot. But you know, we decided to play for the bounty, and we were fortunate enough to pick up $18 in the process. So now, as you can see, our super progressive bounty has increased from $37.50 up to $56.25.